From a secret underground bunker somewhere in the Arizona desert, 40 feet below the Earth's surface, two men, aided by their robotic artificial intelligence, Jennifer,
at your service.
hide from their wives and kids to discuss man stuff with interesting and unusual people. These men are the Bunker Boys. Well, like it or not, that's who we are. The Bunker Boys.
That's who we are.
I'm Chris, and Garth is over there. He's on your...
I'm over here.
On the left side.
Yes.
No.
It all depends on which way you're facing.
That was a little radio joke. Okay. Well, I'm glad you joined us here again, and we've got some more interesting and unusual things to talk about. And most of them regard our lives. Interesting and unusual.
Unusual, yes.
Yeah. Well, anything going on with you, Garth?
No, not really. Just same old, same old.
You don't want to talk about your dog problem this morning?
Not really, but I don't think some people really want to hear about that.
Well, if they're eating breakfast, they probably won't want to hear. But yes, let's just say I've helped pull plastic out of a dog myself.
Dog's behind, yes.
Ay. But in your case, it was cloth that he ate.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Dogs will eat anything. It's just crazy.
Hey, we said that in
unison.
Yes.
Like we practiced it. But anywho, lots of stuff going on in the news, and the big downer for me, and I hate to start.
You hate to shart.
I hate to do that too.
I don't like to shart either.
I hate to start the show off in a downer, but did you hear Art Bell passed away?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he died April 13th. And only fitting.
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. The guy with the macabre and strange stories passes on Friday the 13th.
I'll be darned.
72 years old. I'll tell you, I liked Art. I really enjoyed listening to his show. I thought he offered an entertaining show. I didn't like a lot of the guests he had on. Some of them were just phony and not his fault, but he
just like people.
Yeah, exactly. Some people are just that way. But they certainly were entertaining, if nothing else. I mean, I don't personally believe in time travel, but you have guys on there that experience time travel, they said. So
where'd they go?
I don't know. The future, wherever that is. And some of them have said that they came back to the past to tell us about the future. But he would have all sorts of interesting folks.
Wonder where he found those guys.
Yeah. People are just people. But he would make the most of it, and sometimes it would be tongue-in-cheek, and he would just talk to them about their book or about their travels.
Well, I thought he was older than 72.
No.
I'll be darned.
I actually thought he was a bit younger, but no, he wasn't. He was a pretty smart guy. I mean, he got his FCC license when he was 13 for ham radio.
Oh,
and he often talks about him taking apart appliances when he was a kid. He would take his mom and dad's toaster apart and see how it worked and put it back together. And he was always tearing things apart, and then later became interested in electronics and got into the service.
Tear it apart, put it back together, and you have two extra pieces.
Yeah, that's how I do things. But now that I have a camera on my phone at all times, I get that camera out and I take a picture of it, and then I go, I know how that goes back together. So I can actually reassemble it.
Pretty fart smeller.
I did that the other night. Not the fart smeller part. Hey, you got to watch how I say things. I took something apart. Did you ever hear of a DAT machine, digital audio tape?
I've heard of a disc machine.
Dis and dat?
Dis and dat machine?
Well, this DAT machine, it's kind of a...
Dat machine?
See? I got to watch how I say things.
Oh, dear.
I have a bunch of DAT tapes, digital audio tapes, from when I was in broadcasting. And it's considered an old technology now, and I don't know if anybody still building the machines. But it was kind of cool, though. I mean, it worked like a small, tiny, maybe 2-inch video cassette.
Wow.
Worked the same way. Would wrap around inside the machine, around this spinning head, and it would record digitally. And so instead of recording analog, it would record digital. and it sounded like a CD even though it was tape. Well, I have a bunch of stuff, shows and things I did archived on tape, and I had nothing to play them on because my DAT machine burned up and it died.
Oh, that darn DAT machine.
So thank goodness for those great shopping sites that are out there and great shopping apps. And I was able to connect with somebody that had a DAT machine for sale. So I bought it. My wife negotiated a price with him, and we went and picked it up last week. And now I have a new DAT machine that will play my tapes.
So where is this DAT machine?
This DAT is in my house.
Oh,
That's
this house?
Not this house, the other house.
Oh, the other house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to be archiving some tapes here pretty soon. Well, I just hope the machine lasts long enough to get all my tapes transferred, and then I'll be okay.
Then you can let it blow up.
Then if
whatever.
it blows up, I don't care. I got it in a form I can use it in. And I'm going to transfer them to CD, record them on the computer, then transfer them. But it's nice to have those shows because otherwise they'll be lost to time, and I'd like to have something to give my son. Not that he'll ever listen to them, but maybe. You never know.
That's pretty good.
Or maybe his kids will listen to them.
That's pretty cool.
So anyway, so we want to kind of send Art Bell off with a nice tip of the hat because I really enjoyed his show, and I still enjoy his old shows archived. I go back and listen to them. There's an app you can download on your phone and listen to the old shows, and there were some pretty interesting ones. One of them was Father Malachai Martin, who was a Catholic priest, and he was an exorcist. And I always enjoyed listening to his shows because he always was talking about how to dispel demons and what they really are. One of the most outstanding shows I remember was on March 13th, 1997, shortly after I moved to Phoenix. And what it was, I'm sitting there listening to Art's show. I was archiving some stuff and typing some things up on my computer and listening to Art. And as I'm listening, I hear these reports start to come in his show. Callers were saying, hey, we're seeing this black triangle with lights on it flying over the city. So I stopped what I was doing and I ran outside to look. And I never did see the Phoenix lights. But a lot of people did that night.
Yeah, they did.
I missed it.
They're coming out about it nowadays.
Yeah. And then, the last show or two ago, we talked about the triangle. That triangle that flew over, what was the city? Wickenburg.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, where we live, kind of, they showed like a map where that thing flew over.
Yeah.
And it came by here, basically.
It came down through Paulden and then Chino.
Right.
And then down to Phoenix.
Yep.
And then straight on south, I guess. But yeah, interesting. It was something. It was certainly something. We just don't know what.
And then the military tried to cover that up. Oh, they were flares. Baloney.
Well, they did drop flares, but we think it was after the fact.
It was after.
And I don't know if it was...
They even said it on the show. It was after, so people would think it was flares.
It was disinformation, basically. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe it is. But maybe it wasn't even coordinated. Maybe they never thought of that. It just happened to be that way. It's an awful big coincidence.
Because from what I heard, people have seen flares before, and they said these lights didn't look anything like those flares, supposedly. Yeah,
I know Jim Delatoso at the I forget what the lab is called that he works for, analyzed a lot of the video that people shot of it. And he looks at color temperature, and he can tell by the light what kind of light it is, and usually what type of light makes that
color,
that color temperature. And he said they don't match flares.
Right.
So that's one piece of evidence, at least, that says it's not the same thing.
Yep. I could agree upon that one.
Yeah. And there was one night I was listening to Art, and there was a pilot that said he was going to fly over Area 51, which is restricted airspace, and he could get shot down. And he was talking, and he kept telling Art that he was flying, where he was going, and
all of a sudden he got shot down.
And he went silent.
Nothing happened,
Yeah, so we don't know whether he actually got shot down or what the story was on that. But that was pretty entertaining radio.
I bet it was.
I was sitting on the edge of my seat listening to that, happening live. But all sorts of really good shows. And he's had a lot of professors and scientists on talking about meteorites and things from space and just general space and time theory.
Meteorites and meteorons.
Yep, that's what they say.
But that Area 51 area...
Is that redundant?
Could be. The redundancy of the redundant.
Yes.
Does that make any sense?
I knew what you meant, though.
Okay.
The Department of Redundancy Department.
The Department of Redundancy?
The Department of Illiteracy.
But I was watching a show on the Area 51, and these guys, they go out there and they take their cameras and their zoom lenses and everything and look for UFOs, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But you could only get so close because, you know, it's all fenced off all the way around. But they said that they're always watching them. The people at Area 51 are always watching them.
Oh, yeah. You can't drive up there. They've got ground sensors.
Yep.
And they can tell if someone's in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
And they chase people off. I've seen a few videos on YouTube of people driving right up to the gate, or, you know, to the, not the gate, but the post that says you can't go beyond this this place. They've moved that out. It used to be closer, but they've since moved it further back.
Oh, I'm sure they have.
So I guess they can do that. They're the government.
Yeah, they do anything they want, basically.
And they're here to help you.
Right. Yes, they are.
Don't forget. Yeah. I've been watching some videos on YouTube about the moon, about how China is now going to grow flowers on the dark side of the moon.
What?
There's a news item for you.
Uh-huh.
They're going to attempt growing flowers.
Well, why don't they grow food?
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't do that. I guess if you can grow flowers, they're less complicated than another kind of plant. So I don't know what they're planning on doing, but it sounds like they're trying to develop some things so they can maybe colonize part of it. But that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And have you seen the video that's coming back from amateur astronomers that have telescopes and their digital cameras hooked up to them, recording video?
No.
They're seeing all sorts of UFOs and dark objects flying across the surface of the moon, within just above the moon, and you can see them pretty clearly.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Yeah. So all sorts of little tidbits happening up there.
So that's amateurs, huh? It's not the government. The government doesn't want those.
I don't know if they want them or care, but they're being posted to YouTube, and
You better give them to us, kid.
yeah, I haven't heard anything about that.
Big consequences could happen.
And who knows?
Oh, but don't take my videos. Don't take my pictures. They're mine now. Give me some money for them. No.
That sounds like the kid in the first episode of The Tooth Fairy.
The Tooth Fairy.
Which we haven't published yet, but it's. I'm debating on whether we should.
I agree.
I'm going to try tweaking it and adding some effects and see if it helps. But it might.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was goofy.
It is goofy, but it's fun.
But yeah, it was fun.
We may just throw it together anyway.
Heck, why not?
We haven't heard much about the Mars stuff that was going on. There were some reports that they had found some hieroglyphs and things on Mars.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that one show where there was one, what you call it?
Well, there was a face. I remember.
Yeah, there's a face, and there was something else.
A face. But.
Right. And then they said when they got closer, it didn't look like a face. It was just a trick of shadows and light. But then some other guy says, no, when you get right over top of it, you can see it. And they distorted some of the pictures. When you see them undistorted, they're pretty clear.
So who, when, and how, why, and where did this come up?
No, I just had been watching different things and reading articles on the web.
Was it government or?
No, this guy he analyzes photographs, and he's really good with Photoshop, and he can tell whether something's been photoshopped or not. And he says that when he checks the pictures, because he's fascinated with space, so it's kind of like his side hobby. So he takes the pictures that have been downloaded from the planet that are available on the NASA websites.
Oh, okay.
And he takes them in and stitches some of them together, and he's found some interesting things, and things that people aren't looking at. The images are so high resolution that you can zoom in quite a ways and see things in specific, clean detail. And he does that, and he looks at every little area, which the government doesn't do. but he does. And when he looks at things, he goes, this looks like this could have been a statue, or this could have been this. And some of them are pretty clear.
I'll be darned.
I'm amazed at some of the photographs.
You saw that on the computer? Or?
Yeah, it was on a website. I don't know which one. I don't know at the moment, but if I find it, I'll post it in the show notes. But it was really, really taking me for a ride there, because it looks pretty legit. And right now, the thing that's really bad is that we're so good at special effects, even at your house. You can have things at your home that are as good as Hollywood. And if somebody wanted to, they could fake almost anything. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard to tell. You almost have to rely on the veracity of the person involved that's telling you the story. Are they lying to you, or are they not lying to you?
Right, exactly.
And if you determine they're not, then some of these things are pretty far-fetched. But they could be true.
But they could be true, yes.
And the reason I tend to believe some of them now is because back when I was being raised, you trusted the government a little bit more than you do now. Mm-hmm. And you trusted people a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And
amen.
You didn't, you could kind of tell when somebody was lying to you, but if they're a really good actor, you don't know.
Right. If they're a really good liar, you don't know.
Right. If they're really good, you'll never know.
Exactly.
So that's the point. And because you can fake so many things, and because people can be good actors, how do you know what's true? How do you know what isn't true? And basically, it's what you know. And if you know, I know how to manipulate things. I've seen things. I can tell because of my computer experience whether something's legit or not. For instance, if you want to get into the Obama birth certificate, I looked at that, and what they posted, I could separate myself with Adobe, and something was overlaid over top of it. So whatever they posted, he might have a legitimate birth certificate somewhere, but that one was not legitimate.
Really?
I can tell you myself.
I'll be darned.
Based on what his office posted. So I'm telling you, that one was not legit. Because I took it apart myself. And I trust me.
Well, I hope so.
So I'm just saying that, people that say that, no, you're nuts if you believe that he wasn't born in this country.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows?
If you're telling me that birth certificate was real, you're full of crap. So
isn't Joe Arpaio still
well, he investigated
on that kick?
I don't know if he's still, but he did investigate it, and he says it's not legit. And I believe him because of what, at first you're thinking, okay, they had a feud, Joe Arpaio and the feds, they butted heads.
Yes, they did.
Okay, that aside, though, knowing what I know about that document that the Obama administration posted, and they said was his birth certificate, I looked at it and downloaded it, and I can take it apart. So that was superimposed, and whoever made that purposely superimposed some writing over top of the document. And then they didn't have the intelligence to marry the two together. They call that flattening, image flattening. And when you flatten that image, it becomes one. They become part of each other. But if you don't flatten it, you've got two layers that can be taken apart.
Mm-hmm. You're a pretty fart smeller.
Sometimes.
Boy, oh boy.
So, and then Obama himself says in his book that he wasn't born here. He was born in Kenya.
See, there you go.
I mean, so you want to read his book?
There you go.
Two bits of evidence right there. So I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you think I'm a nut. I don't care.
Wow.
Move along.
Be that way.
I'm just saying.
Fine, I'm leaving.
I'm not saying you, but I mean the collective you. So you can believe it or you can't believe it, but I trust my own eyes to a great deal. There are certain things you can be fooled in, like in magic tricks. You can't trust your eyes completely. But there are certain things you do know, and based on what you know and your experience, you can tell a lot about things. You can fool kids because they don't know history. You can't fool older adults because they do know history.
You can't fool Mother Nature.
That's right. Did you hear that? That was Mother Nature responding.
What'd she do?
She threw some lightning.
Oh.
Or was that thunder?
Probably thunder.
You can't hear lightning. But you can hear thunder. So enough about my diatribe.
How do you know you can't hear lightning?
Well, I'm assuming you can't, but I know you can hear thunder. So, Castle Hot Springs in Arizona, which I pass all the time coming up to this area, In 1865, it was kind of a military hideout for Colonel Charles Craig. And he had a significant battle in that area where he was chased by a bunch of Native Americans into this little valley. And they ended up defeating the Indians there.
Is that how they found it?
That's how they found it, yeah. Now, I guess the Native Americans already knew about it because they had a lot of petroglyphs there. They bathed there in the hot springs. So they called it magic waters. But it was supposed to rejuvenate you and heal you, and it's got a lot of minerals in it. But there's a natural hot springs there. Well, later on, it got developed into a resort of sorts.
Now it has a lot of dead skin cells in it.
Yes. Everything does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you let it, people around long enough. But the nice thing about Castle Hot Springs is they built a nice house there and guest houses and ended up building a pool there, and then along with the hot springs. And people from all over Hollywood, all the celebrities used to come there. Clark Gable, I guess one of the presidents, was it Herbert Hoover? One of them.
Herbert Hoover?
I think my wife was talking about that. Do you remember what she said?
No, I wasn't. I was too busy eating pizza.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how you engage your taste buds, and then your mind just goes blank.
Oh, I was crunching too. It was
It was loud.
It was thin crust.
I couldn't hear. But yeah, but anywho, they're going to reopen that resort. It's been closed for decades.
Oh, has it been?
Yeah. And in fact, a friend of mine drives a four-wheeler around with his wife, and they both have them, and they go off the road, and they kind of trailer them into some place, and then they drive around, and his four-wheeler broke down right in front of the hot springs, and he was working on it at the corner of the street. It's a dirt road, and there's hardly any traffic there. So he was working on it thinking he could get it fixed long enough to get back home and get back to his trailer so he could leave and go home. And as he's working on it, some lady comes up to him, and she goes, "What are you doing here?" And he goes, "Well, I'm here." And she's an older lady. And she was kind of mean to him. And he said, "Well, can you see? I'm broken down here. That's what I'm doing here." And she goes, "Well, you can't be here." And he says, "Well, I can't not be here because
I can't leave
I
here
can't
yet."
leave. Do you see? Can you figure this out?" And he said, "I'll be working on this, and then I'll be leaving as soon as I can." And she says, "All right." And she goes, "Well, no one's allowed over here. This is private property back in here." Well, the street's not private property, you moron.
Right.
But she was one of the owners.
Oh, really?
So don't be a moron to people, lady, if you want customers.
Yeah, lady.
I'm just saying.
The old battle axe.
So there.
So there. And I hope you're listening.
Yeah, well, that'll be the day, right?
Right.
But anyway, it's...
So how long ago was this? She's probably dead by now.
Yeah, that could be. It actually was a couple years ago. I think I talked to him about it. He's our mechanic for our vehicles. And he said that he was out that way. I think it was probably 2 years ago last time I mentioned it. But it should be interesting. They're opening October of this year. And the cheapest rate is, I think it's $900 a night.
Oh, see you later.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I won't be staying
You know
here.
what? Why is everybody out to gouge everybody? I just don't figure that out anymore.
Well,
I can't figure out why they're out to screw you.
I know the business books I've read talk about how to price something. If you keep your prices at a certain level, it keeps a certain type of people out. So they figure that if you're a big spender and you're a big money person, you're not going to mistreat their facility, and you're going to be willing to pay the price without blinking. And it also keeps the people who are maybe don't know how to take care of things or themselves or other people's things, keeps them out. That's some of the thinking.
Telling you about that mechanic yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
They're out to screw you.
Yeah. Well, you can tell that story.
No,
You don't want to go into it?
Nah.
Makes you feel bad.
No, it doesn't.
There.
Doesn't make me feel bad. It's just...
Yeah, they do gouge you sometimes. And I'll tell you another thing. They do that a lot of times to women because they think that women don't understand mechanics, and for the most part, a lot of them don't. But some do, and some know a lot more than they know.
Well, my wife, this is a couple of years ago, we needed to get the little truck aligned, right?
Yeah.
Because the tires were wearing on the outside. So we made an appointment for this place, and Briskett. So he took it there. She was working, by the way. You know, she took it early lunch and went there. They said they put it up on the lift, and it sat there for an hour before they even started doing anything on it, even looking at it. And mind you, she's taking time off of work.
Right, the time is ticking.
Mm-hmm. So anyways, and yeah, all we want her to do is just get it realigned. And the guy says, well, I could realign it, but I can't guarantee it. Well, why is that? Because you need new ball joints on there, on your truck, to, you know, because that's making it go out of alignment. So she says, okay, well, let me call my husband and see. She asked how much that would be. And he said about $700. So she called me up. I said, no, no, the ball joints are fine. I said, get out of there, you know. So anyway, she did. She told him no thank you and forget it. And she brought it home. We took it to our friend's shop. He has a shop and a lift and everything, and they're both mechanics, and they both got underneath there. They were prying and tugging and pulling and hitting and banging. He says, these ball joints are like brand new. There's nothing wrong with these. See, and that SOB was trying to pull the wool over her eyes for get an extra $700.
Yeah, and you know what you're going to do? You're going to tell 10 of your friends not to ever go there. To the place that did that to you.
I think she called the Better Business Bureau on them.
She sure should have. I mean, that's right.
It's terrible what they do.
Did you see many years ago, and this is probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there was a 2020 episode. They talked about how they would take a man in and let him take his car into the shop, knowing what was wrong. Like they pulled a wire on the distributor or they did something. Mm-hmm. And he said he was having trouble with the car. And they were going to see how honest the mechanics were. And it was about 60% of them were dishonest.
Mm-hmm. I could believe that.
It was crazy.
I could believe that.
And a couple of them would say, and they would see it more often with the women than they would with the men. So the women would be taken advantage of because they thought they didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
And then I think they had an ASC certified mechanic who was a woman watching what was going on. And then she chewed them out and said, oh, really? I think maybe it's just that distributor wire right there. Or, you know, and she just exposed them for the idiots they were. And then she told them, you realize we're on 2020 right now. And you've just lost a ton of business for the way you treated me.
Good. They deserve it. It was just like that guy yesterday, you know. Yeah. With the rotors. Well, I could get you my guy. I could get him for $45. So I go to the AutoZone. I got mine for $30 a piece.
Yeah.
Rotten SOBs.
I'm telling you, I don't trust. That's why I don't trust anybody, especially when it comes to mechanics. And that's why I like my family mechanic, because my wife knows him. She's worked with him in the past, and he's an honest guy.
Right.
So it's hard to find a good mechanic.
You darn tootin'.
And then he does the work fairly cheap too, half the price of what somebody else would charge. Well, that brings me to mind that story I have for. I'm not going to say which mart it was. But one of the marts, out there was working on my car, changing the oil, and they were supposed to check it over. And,
I remember you told me. Yeah.
Yeah. So
this is rotten, folks.
Yeah. So I drive in there, and I have a habit of checking everything after they're done, before and after, by the way. And I also tend to remove all the stuff from my car that doesn't belong there. Or maybe
they could pick up
and leave with, just to keep everybody honest. If it's not there, they can't take it, right? So I don't want to have to be in a position to accuse.
What's that saying, out of sight, out of mind?
Yeah, and keeping honest people honest. I hate that term, but it's like if you're honest, you're going to be honest anyway.
Right.
And that's the way I operate. You know, and just for example, my mother worked in a money room for a famous vending company. And she said, I counted money all day long. I had coins and dollars and tens of thousands of dollars. I never once was tempted to put any of that in my pocket. Not once. And it's a job, and it's money, and if it's not yours, don't touch it.
Right.
Or unless it's part of your job.
Yeah, don't put it in your pocket.
Don't put it in your pocket. Don't take it. It's not yours. And just at work, cleaning people. I've seen cleaning people take stuff off of people's desks. They think, oh, no one's looking, boom.
Yep.
But why? If it isn't yours, don't touch it. Now, you can move it and dust around it if that's your job.
Exactly.
But don't take it. It's not yours. So,
get back to your story.
Yeah, so back at the ranch.
To the One Mart.
So the One Mart story, I'm there getting my oil changed, and because of my habits, I discovered something. So my son was with me, and I pull it out of there and get my car, and I go to, just before I pull out, I should say, I checked it. I opened up my hood and looked around, and my battery didn't look the same. And I'm going, that doesn't look right. So I looked at the battery, and what brought my attention to this was that even after I checked it and I thought it didn't look right, it was like 3 days later that it stopped working. I tried to start my car, and it wouldn't start. And I go, you gotta be kidding me. So then I knew something happened, and I talked to my wife. I go, hey, didn't I just get a battery? She said, yeah, you had him come out. Hasn't been 2 years yet. And I said, well, that battery is not in my car anymore.
Remember you told me what make it was?
Yeah, it was a AAA battery.
Right.
They came out and replaced it last time. And it was a certain brand that I recognized. Yeah. And that wasn't in there anymore. And I thought, well, maybe I was just seeing things, and then when it didn't start after that second or third day, I knew they had switched out the battery. Somebody had swapped it out.
Yep.
Now that takes some chutzpah.
Yes, it does,
to do that.
Especially in a big company like that.
So guess what I did? The next day, I went in there and I said, I want you to know that the last time I was in here, that one of your guys took my battery out. Oh, they wouldn't do that. I said, well, here's the thing. I park in my garage every night, and there's no way anybody's going to get in there. I park in a secured building every day when I go to work, and no one's going to get in there. The only place it's been exposed, because my wife does the shopping, I don't. The only place it's been exposed where it could have been gotten to easily with my hood open is this place right here. So I suggest you take a look at your security tapes if you have them. And he goes, well, we have them. I said, you're going to find somebody took my battery. So they didn't offer to replace it or anything.
Yeah, nothing ever came out of it. Yeah.
Nope. I don't expect you to report back to me. And they said, well, good. We're not going to.
Right.
I mean, that's not something we'll do. I said, okay. But, when you're responsible for this, I really could charge you for my battery. But when you find it out, just let him go. And that'll be enough for me. But I'll buy a new battery. Well, I did. I had to.
Did you buy it from them?
Nope. So just be aware that they do stuff like that. And then I think it was 2 or 3 times after that I had my oil changed. Some
at the same place?
At the same place, some numbnuts stuck a can up against my fan, like a pop can, and it chewed it up. It hit it with the fan blade and cut it in half, and it was still stuck in my car. Now, for me to hit something and have it go up into my car would have been one thing, but wouldn't you have removed that if you were changing the oil and you saw that?
You would think.
And it's right next to the oil filter? Wouldn't you think that the guy would just reach in there and pull it out? That's why I know he stuck it in there. He didn't. It wasn't there from some other time. Otherwise, he'd have pulled it out. But he stuck it in there and thought it'd be funny.
Oh, they're done. They must not like you there.
I don't know why. I've always treated them with respect and kindness, and I always go there for my oil changes. I'm just saying you got to watch who you hire. I don't know if they hire ex-cons or what they do.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I'm tired of this stuff, man.
I don't blame you.
It's costly. People steal your battery or damage your things.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
Hey, Jennifer.
Yes, master.
Just wanted to see if you were there. You hadn't said anything since we started the show.
She's been darn quiet today.
I'm telling you. Hey, they're going to start a new series in television. I don't even know if it's going to be on Netflix or where, but it might be on TV. I don't know. I'll find out more about it. But the new Lost in Space.
Oh, I'll be darned.
They're going to do another series.
Jeez.
I wonder what's going to happen with that. Who gets to play Dr. Smith?
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you that I met Bill Mumy, who was the young kid?
Right.
Yeah,
told me.
Yeah, he ended up acting in other things, too. I mean, he was an actor since he was a little kid. He was in some of the episodes, the one in the cornfield. On
Twilight Zone?
Twilight Zone, thank you. Together we have a collective memory. But yeah, Rod Serling's Twilight Zone. And I got to talk to him. He was at the...
You did?
Yeah, at the convention, Superman convention, the 50th anniversary. And it was held in Superman's hometown of Cleveland, Ohio.
I thought he was from Kryptonite.
Well, he was invented in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh.
Jerry Shuster and Joe Siegel, two kids and were in high school when they started creating their own superhero.
Really?
Yep.
I'll be done.
Yeah, and I was there and met Noel Neill, who was the first Lois Lane on movies. She played Lois Lane to the very first Superman, who was Kirk Alyn. And Kirk was there too. Kirk must have been close to 80 years old then. I don't know if we discussed this before or not. I had one of my buddies interview him, and he knew what to ask him to get his good responses. And I have since lost that videotape, unfortunately, because I had it professionally done. I had a friend that was a professional cameraman for one of the TV stations, and he shot the video, and Mike, my friend Mike, recorded it with Kirk Alyn. And Mike was a newsman.
Did
Mike
you record
Olszewski.
it with a mic?
He did. Mike recorded with Mike, but got a good interview out of him, and some of the things he discussed were just so entertaining. He had an agent in town in Hollywood, and he got to do, I think he did a character called the Raven, which looked like Clark Kent, basically. He was another superhero, and I forget what the Raven did, but you can look it up. And Kirk talked about being at his home making furniture. He enjoyed woodworking. Did I say that right? Woodworking. Woodworking. He liked woodworking. Like to work the wood, you know what I'm saying. So he was out making furniture in his garage. He said he was turning a bedpost on a lathe, and he gets his phone call, and it's his agent, and he says, "Hey, Kirky, I want you to come in and audition for me." He goes, "What's it for?" He goes, "I'm not telling you. Come on down," because he figured he wouldn't come down if he told him it was a kid's cartoon superhero. So he goes down to the office, and he talks to I guess it's one of the producers and the guy that was booking the talent. And he says, what is this? What's all this about? He goes, "Well, before I tell you, take your shirt off." And Kirk says, "I don't know what kind of movie you're making, but I'm not that kind of actor." He said, No, just take your shirt off. It's okay. So what are you doing, Tarzan again? And he said, "No." So he goes, "Yeah, I guess he'll do," because they knew he could act already. And so he had him read something. He gave him what they call a side, which is a script. And as he's reading it, he says, "Superman?" And he goes, "Yeah." He said, "You mean that kid's cartoon that's in the newspaper?" He said, "Yeah. That's what we're going to do as a movie or as a serial." He goes, "There's no way people are going to like this. This is stupid." And he says, "Do you want the job or don't you?" And he says, "Well, okay. Yeah, I could do it. I'll try to pull it off, but I think it's stupid. I don't think anybody's going to watch it." Well, lo and behold, it became one of the most popular things in movie serials. And I think they were not terribly long movies. I think they were short ones at first, and they would play them as part of other features. And then they became so popular, they started making films, longer films, and 30-minute shows and episodes. So people couldn't wait to see the next episode. It was always a cliffhanger. And they were all shot in black and white, because that's all there was. And Noel Neill was his Lois Lane. And I spoke to Kirk, too, and thanked him for all his past works in Superman. I actually got to see some of them, and they're out. You might be able to look them up on YouTube. I think they've got some shorts of it. But he was really a nice, kind man, and funny.
Oh, we don't.
He had a million stories.
Well, I bet he did.
Fortunately, I didn't get to talk to him much about them, just Superman. But then I found him in The Raven, or whatever that is, that other superhero he did. He was a G-man or something. Government man, FBI. And then Noel Neill, of course, being his first Lois Lane, later became George Reeves' Lois Lane when Kirk no longer did the part. Of course, George Reeves played the twins in Gone with the Wind.
Well, I'll be darned, I didn't know that. You know about a lot of things, don't you?
I just read a lot about it. I read a lot about a lot of things. I tell that story to tell this one. So I meet Bill Mumy. I almost called him Mummy. I meet Bill Mumy, and his wife was there, and we were talking, and I was just, just talking about generalities of things and how I had seen him since he was a little kid. He's older than me, but I told him about the episodes that I saw, and I really appreciated him as a child. I said, "You were a pretty precocious kid." And he goes, "Yeah, I was." And I said, "It's nice that you're able to appreciate what you did, even though you might think some of the stuff's hokey." And he was in Lassie too. He played, I don't know if he played Timmy but he was one of the kids in Lassie for a while.
I know he didn't play Lassie.
No, he didn't look much like her.
Lassie.
She's gone. I'm sorry.
They're coming out with a new movie, Laddie.
Really?
No. Really?
Why do you build me up like that and then pull the rug out?
Why don't you? Yeah. You know what song that was?
Yep. I can't think of what it is. Why do you
Buttercup.
do?
Yeah. Why do you build me up, Buttercup?
Oh, build me up Build me up, Buttercup. Yeah, you don't want to sing that because we'll get into all sorts of legal issues.
They'll charge us 10 cents a minute.
Yeah, or something, or download, or so. Anyway, but yeah, Bill was real nice. I enjoyed visiting with him, and he played with America. He played guitar with America for a while.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he's a guitar player. And then he was in a group called Barnes and Barnes that Dr. Demento still plays, and they do a song called Fishheads, Fishheads, Roly Poly Fishheads.
I remember that song.
Fishheads, Fishheads, eat 'em up, yum. There's some good lyrics. I want to hear Frank Sinatra do that song.
Have you ever had fish head soup?
No, I have not.
It's pretty darn good.
I've had lots of things that a person shouldn't eat because I'm married to a Chinese woman.
I used to make fish head soup.
She's going to kill me for that statement, but I do it in all fun and love, honey. I don't care if you eat fish eyes, but it's not for me. Or chicken feet, for that matter. They do eat those things.
Chicken feet are good.
Chinese women I live with. My son will eat chicken feet, but I don't think he'll eat a fish eye. Not yet, anyway.
You pick all the meat out of your teeth with the toenails.
Is that what you do? Mm-hmm. Thanks. I always tell her, chickens walk through their own feces with those.
Yeah, it's not like they don't step in the hot tub and wash them off.
I'm scared. Well, you've got a point there. I say, son, you got a point there. But if you comb your hair just right, no one will be able to see it.
We call him Pinhead.
Pinhead.
It's real stupid, man.
It's stupid.
Let's talk about
you.
Okay.
Chief cook and bottle washer?
Chief cook and bottle washer I am. That's what they called me back then.
Uncle Garth.
Uncle Garth's barbecue sauce.
Yeah, how did you develop that?
Trial and error.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mr. Garth has decided to... He's a great cook, and he also invents his own sauces. And he was experimenting around and came up with something good, and then took it down to one of our local restaurants, and they liked it.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
They just opened a barbecue joint there in town, and she was having a
open house
and everything, and she wanted the locals to bring in their homemade barbecue sauce, and she was going to have like a contest, and whoever won the contest gets their barbecue sauce in the restaurant, the house sauce.
Did they post that somewhere where people could see it, or?
I don't know. I was told about it.
Oh, okay.
My friend Billy, remember Billy?
Yep.
He told me about it. He says, hey, you know what? Restaurant's having a contest for best barbecue sauce, and you should take yours down there.
Yeah, why not?
So I did. I took it down to the owner, and I gave her a jar of it, and it turned out to be the best barbecue sauce. And
It won?
It won.
No kidding.
Yeah. Out of 20-something.
What was the prize?
Comps.
Oh, so you got like a dinner or something?
You get free dinner every time you go in there, or lunch or breakfast or what have you.
Wow.
Yeah. But I've only been in there once to eat.
Breakfast or dinner?
For dinner.
Yeah, that's the one you want. Dinner.
But we went in there also. It was elk season. It was hunting season. So my buddy and I, we bought a bunch of hot dogs and, hamburgers, and we didn't buy any steaks or anything. Mm-hmm. So anyways, we were only hunting like 5 miles away, because where we live, you don't have to go very far to go hunt.
Yep.
To hunt elk and deer and stuff.
That's nice.
Now, you could hunt them in your own backyard if you want to. But so anyways, we drive down the hill, and he says, go in there and ask Linda if we could get a couple of steaks. I said, hey, that's a good idea. I said, well, why don't we just go in there for dinner? He goes, no, let's get back to camp. I said, okay. So I walked in there and I asked her and said, hey, Lynn, can I buy a couple of steaks from you guys? So we're out hunting right now and we're tired of hot dogs. And she goes, sure. She goes, hold on a second. So she went in the back and walked back out and brought out 2 big old ribeye steaks. She goes, here you go. I said, how much do I owe? She goes, nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
These
was
steaks
nice
are like
of her.
$10 a piece. They're like
Easily.
inch and a half thick and,
Yeah.
you know, big as a dinner plate.
That was nice of her. So she remembers you from the sauce.
Oh, of course,
then.
yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good news. At least they take care of you. That's nice.
The food's not too bad. It's a
Yeah.
lot better with my barbecue sauce.
No
on it,
kidding.
Of course.
Oh, well, we had it down there ourselves. We actually asked for Uncle Garth's sauce, and they laughed.
And they looked at you, what?
Like, what? They should have your name on there.
They should.
I mean, that's
I know.
really what they should
That's
do.
what I told her is it's Uncle Garth's barbecue sauce, but they call it the house sauce.
Yeah, and I told her, I said, we know you. You're our neighbor up here. And she's, oh, how nice. You know, yeah, Garth, he brought that sauce into us. Mm-hmm. So she remembered. Didn't forget you.
Yeah.
I heard a funny story about how some of the talent down there on New Year's Eve, I guess they had a karaoke night.
Oh, boy.
And one of my guys that was working here, who shall remain nameless, was down there for New Year's Eve night because he was working here at my house and then decided to stay in town and hang out. And he said he had a good time. It was fun. But he said some of the people who think they can sing can't sing very well.
They should stick to elk calling
Yeah.
or turkey calls.
I think some of them sounded like they were elk calling when they were singing. But it's always funny to see people who think they can sing because in their head they're wonderful. Mm-hmm. And then reality is something totally different.
Yeah, everybody's plugging their ears.
Well, I know in broadcasting, when you first start and you're not used to hearing your own voice on recordings, and in your head you think, oh, I sound good, I sound like this. And then when you hear the recording, you say, oh, geez.
Yeah, exactly.
I sound like my Uncle Fred or worse, Aunt Martha.
Boy, where was I when I was singing that?
Yeah.
You know, I've done that quite a few times.
What was I drinking?
Listen to myself on the tape or something. I'm like, that's me.
Yeah, it takes time to
Really?
get used to it. My mom is an identical twin, and I had her record something with me. And when I played it back for her, she said, I sound like my sister. I said, well, your sister's your twin. Of course you sound like your sister. They almost sound like voice twins. I mean, they're almost a perfect match.
Wow.
There were times when I was a kid that my mom
Well,
would
when
call.
you listen to yourself on a recording, you don't sound like yourself. You don't sound like you sound when it's coming out of your mouth from your own ears.
You don't at first, but after 35 years of doing this,
Okay.
I know what I sound like even when I'm saying it.
Do you know what you look like?
Oh yeah, that's why I'm behind the mic and not in front of a camera. God bless my wife. She loves me for who I am.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
Mine too.
Yeah, gone are the days that I'm going to pose for GQ magazine. But not that I ever could have. I could have, but I might have scared some people. But nevertheless, I'm on this side of the microphone, and you can imagine me having six-pack and muscles bulging and whatever.
You still do?
And long flowing hair
You're in damn good shape.
out of each nostril.
And earlobe and ear.
Yes, now it's out your earlobes and your nostril, your eyebrows.
Eyebrows.
My eyebrows are like curb feelers these days.
Remember those things?
I do. It's like, who invented that crap?
That was a good idea, actually.
Why? What's good about it?
Well, I mean, it lets you know when you're close to the curb.
Stoyang.
A lot of times you hit the curb and scuff up your tires and
I
all
suppose.
that other stuff. But
Then if you get good at driving, you don't have to worry about that.
that's very true.
I know.
But anyways, about cooking, I'm going to smoke some food this week.
It's hard to light, though.
Well,
And the puffing on it on the other end is tough, especially like corn cobs. And
your papers have to be really big.
I think so. You have papers? Let us see your papers.
No, I'm gonna smoke some chicken and some sausage and a brisket.
How long do you smoke it?
It all depends.
Well, that makes it easy then.
It all depends how long it stays lit. No, but
What do you smoke it with? What kind of wood?
I'm not going to tell you.
Hickory?
Dickory dock. No, I use mesquite.
Mesquite
or oak.
Yeah, mesquite is good.
Russ gets me a lot of mesquite.
It's hard to find oak around here.
Well, here, you could go up in the higher mountains, you could get oak.
Yeah.
It grows real good up there, like 6,000 feet up. We're only 53.
Right. Yeah, so we're ways away.
We get that scrub oak.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little bit of scrub oak, which isn't, doesn't grow as big as real oak trees.
Have you tried using that?
No.
I wonder if it'd be any good.
I don't know.
Just don't use poison sumac.
Yeah. Back to your question, how long you smoke it for? I smoke a brisket for about 8 hours.
Oh.
And then I take it out, wrap it in aluminum foil, and put it in the oven for about another 2 or 3 because, why waste another 10 pounds of charcoal?
Yeah, that's true.
The price of charcoal anymore.
Yeah, it ain't cheap, huh?
Right. So I do that, and then the chicken, you smoke it for about an hour or what have you, and then just cook it on low for another couple hours, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, tastes pretty good. I've had several of your concoctions, your recipes. They're good.
I smoked some chorizo. I made some homemade chorizo, and I smoked that. Billy was here then. What did we smoke? We smoked some chicken and ribs, and I smoked some homemade chorizo. It didn't have a skin on it, I just roll it up in a cellophane in a big roll, big cylinder, and then freeze it, and then unwrap it and throw it in the smoker frozen, and then as it thaws out, it's cooking, and then getting that smoke flavor. That turned out really good.
Yeah, I never thought about that. You wouldn't think smoke would take effect with it being frozen, but I guess as it thaws, it would.
Well,
Yeah.
So that was another good recipe I came up with, is the homemade chorizo and then smoking it.
That's a good tip. Anybody does chorizo.
Oh, remember that recipe I told you about with the chuck steak?
Mm-hmm.
I did that with a pork loin. Took a half a pork loin, cut it up into chunks, and did that marinate with it.
Yeah.
I told you about on a couple of shows ago. You could push it with your finger and it'd
break off?
Yeah.
Wow. That's tender. I like that. Fall off the bone.
That's what
tender.
Mary said. She goes, "Oh, that is so good."
Did she think she hit the jackpot when she married you?
She knows she did.
Man that cooks?
Yep.
Wow.
She knows she did.
Can fix your truck and make you some breakfast and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's why she married me.
She's a lucky woman.
That's why all the girls married me.
All the girls married you? Mm-hmm. All of them?
All of them.
Well, leave some for the other guys, would you?
Well, they're ruined now, so.
It's ruined for other men. Poor gals. Yeah, you hate to do that to a woman, but sometimes you got to spoil one of them so the rest learn.
Is that our to-go song?
That's our to-go song.
Oh.
It's that time.
Our to-go music.
Yeah. So, alas, we have to say goodbye. Until next week.
Bye-bye.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Remember that?
Yeah, that was on Superman.
No, it was not. Ay. That's amazing how things fritter away here as we do the show.
Fritter away?
Oh, yes, fritter. Don't fritter.
Fratter.
I like apple fritters. Those
fritter
are good.
Fret. Yeah, apple fritters.
Good stuff with milk. Oh, can't beat it. Or even coffee.
Have you ever made peach cobbler?
Yes.
Speaking of food.
It smells kind of funny sometimes until you eat it and then it tastes good.
Smells funny.
I don't know what it is about the peach. There's some sort of aftertone or something that almost smells like dirty feet or something with peaches. I know it sounds weird, but I've always thought that. But it tastes good when you eat it, and that's okay. That's what matters.
That's very true.
Well, to get a hold of us...
Strange but true. Hold on.
Okay.
I have to do my strange but true facts. Okay, it says, right-handed people live on average 9 years longer than left-handed people do.
Thank God I'm right-handed.
Me too.
Okay. So if you're going to write us, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, write us at bunkerboysunderground@gmail.com.